When I was 16 years old, I was particularly obsessed with motorcycles. When I had time, I would meet my friends and we would go off-road together. Although I was often injured, it didn't stop me from loving life off-road. One weekend, my friend asked me to go out off-road with him, and it had been raining for a few days before. The roads got muddy and I rode my motorcycle up the off-road course towards a jump that I had been on hundreds of times in the past. That day I decided to complete a jump farther than I had ever done before. As I approached the jump, I sprinted as fast as I could. A voice told me that I had to slow down. I ignored the voice and sped up. This was not the first time I had heard this voice. This voice was special to me because I was often abused by my stepfather when I was a child. Whenever I was beaten, there was always a voice comforting me, and when I was in trouble, I would hear this voice. Don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for sympathy here. This voice not only comforted me, but warned me of impending danger. I was never puzzled. I think everyone is surrounded by this voice. Back to the story, as I said, I ignored the voice. I accelerated my sprint as I approached the jump and I decided I wanted to jump farther than I ever had before. I suddenly felt my tires skid and I lost control of the bike. I couldn't get control of the bike before I hit the ground. I fell head first to the ground and lost consciousness. I did not wear a helmet because I was confident in my skills, and now I see how stupid I was. My friends were behind me, they saw me fall. They called emergency services. They stood there watching me. They were worried I was dead. They couldn't see any of my movements or breathing. After they said a few words to each other, suddenly, he saw me take a deep breath and slowly open my eyes. They told me later that the whole thing took about 5 minutes. I remember the moment I dropped my head on the floor and everything went black. Then I opened my eyes and stood up. To my shock, I saw myself lying on the ground, all twisted up. Then I heard that familiar voice that kept saying behind me, "Come on, we have to go." I turned around. I saw the one who had made the voice. I think it would be more appropriate to describe it as an angel. This angel looked like a 6-year-old girl and I asked her, "Where are we going?" She said in an anxious tone, "Come on, we have to go now. The man in the dark is coming." Then she pointed to the distance. There were 3 dark spirits coming toward me, and they were trying to take me away. I had the feeling that they were sent by the devil to try to capture my soul. It was like they were entwined, with a dark cloud around them, and they were dressed in black robes, and I could not see their eyes. I also felt that one of them represented pain and suffering, one seemed lost in despair, and the third represented evil. I looked at the angel floating above me, and she held out her hand for me to grasp her. She was wearing a long robe and a golden crown on her head. She began to fly upward. I looked down and saw my 2 friends. I also saw the men in black around my body and they were very angry. As the angel and I flew upward, I saw the earth getting smaller and smaller. Then we went into outer space, faster and faster, until the earth disappeared. We passed so many planets, going so fast, it was like a blur. I looked up to see where we were traveling. It was very difficult because we were going so fast, and finally we came to a place where it was like we had gone through a barrier to get there. It was a cloudy place, and I felt so wonderful there. There was no heat or cold, no pain or discomfort, no hunger or thirst, no craving for anything. I had a feeling of love that this place was the most perfect place you could imagine. I believe this place is heaven. The angel said, I have to go now. There are others waiting for her. This scared me because I felt alone in this strange place. I looked to my right and there were two people standing on a podium with a book on it. The book was very thick and the two men on the podium seemed to know me. I was later told that some of my memories here would not be preserved if I chose to go back. So many of my experiences have been deleted from my memory. One of them looked at me and asked, "Why are you here?" I looked up at him. In a trembling voice I asked, "Are you saying I should go down there?" I felt like they were suggesting to me that hell was where I should go. During this whole experience, we didn't talk in words, which was a subconscious language, and they both laughed and explained to me, "Now your time has not yet come." I was very confused and then they opened the book. I saw names written all over the top of the book and they said, "Here is the list for today, your name is not here." Then he turned the book back many pages and said, "This is your time," and they pointed to my name. I told them, "I want to stay." They replied, "You have to go back. You are part of God's plan." I asked, "Why do I have to go back and how will you send me back?" They said, "We will take you to God. He will know what to do." The two men took me to a place. He was sitting very high up. When they lifted me up to him, I saw that he was wearing a white robe. God held out his hands to me as you would hold up a little child. I held up my hands. He took my hands, lifted me up, and sat me down in front of him. His hands were very strong, yet they were the warmest hands. I was afraid to look at him, and he smiled and said, "You humans all have the same beliefs. Your beliefs and the Bible are not exactly right, you must do better." He seemed very pleased with us. I slowly looked up at him. He was very tall. His hair and beard were white and gray, and I could hardly breathe. God put his hand on my head. He can see everything about me and feel everything I have done in my life. He could see the good and bad things I had done and could feel what I was really feeling at the time. He measured my good and bad and said, "Yes, you are good." He went on to say that you were part of my plan. He showed me a picture of me and a boy. I understood that the boy was my son and that I was in a wheelchair with the boy pushing me because my neck had been broken in the accident. This meant that I was paralyzed and my son had to take care of me. I asked, "Where is the boy's mother? Did she die?" He said, "She went to another place." Later, I got married and had a son with my first wife at the age of 23. When my son was a year and a half old, we got divorced and she left us to live in another city and never came back. Then God told me, "You can stay, but I want you to go back," and I asked, "What do you mean I am part of your plan?" Then he showed me my mission and I was told that if I stayed there, God would have to change the other events associated to make his plan work. I told God, "If it is part of your plan, I will go back for you, but if I go back, can you heal my neck? Not for me, but for my son so he doesn't have to take care of me. It's bad enough that his mother is gone." God agreed and reminded me that the knowledge I had gained here would not be retained because humans would not understand, and with those words, God took me back to my body. It was almost an instant compared to the journey to heaven with the angels. He put me back into my body and was about to leave when I realized that he had not secured my neck. I said, "Wait. What about the injury to my neck?" Then God put his hand on the back of my neck. Everything was back in place. I felt the warmth of the hand. God was ready to leave, and I noticed that my neck still hadn't fully recovered. I said, "I still feel something wrong with my neck." God said, "This scar is to remind you at all times." And then God went back to heaven. I opened my eyes, saw the sunlight, and I took a deep breath. Life came back into my body. My friends saw me awake, and one of them asked, "Are you okay? We thought you were dead." I had wounds in many places on my body, most importantly my neck, and I felt a lot of pain. They picked me up. I couldn't hold my head upright, and they picked me up on my motorcycle, which was almost ruined. Soon the ambulance came and I was taken to the hospital. The doctor asked me some questions, some I answered and some I couldn't. They called my parents. They arrived at the hospital soon. They checked and didn't find anything too serious. After a simple treatment of the wound, then we went home. The doctor said I don't need a brace for my neck, he thinks it will take longer to heal. I have shared very little of this experience with people in my life. Those who know me may believe me. Those who don't know me think I imagined it, and only I know what I went through.